welcome everyone to In Time or Overtime, wherever you're watching. If you're hearing an echo for once, it's actually not my fault. You're watching on both streams simultaneously. So there's one I can sit there and not take the blame for. Thank you all for joining us. With us today is Operator Starsky and Commander Lance McMillan. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good evening. Doing fine. How are you?
Doing good, thanks. It's we've got a lot coming up, I got to tell you, and I'm really excited. Oh, you there, Commander?
I was going to say, yeah, Dog Excrement and I feel very similar right now.
Yeah, well. So last night we had on Lance, and right before, so he was wearing a red sweatshirt with a hoodie, and he had the hoodie just like all the way, just right up, right until the show.
Yeah, and so yeah, I took a COVID test yesterday and another one this morning, and both were positive. So, so much for trying to practice, separation and wearing a mask all the time. I mean, I'm probably literally one of maybe a dozen people in this region still wearing my mask, and yet here I am, infected.
Oh, well, I'm impressed. I appreciate having you on despite that. But yeah, I think best for everyone that the cameras stay off. So,
yeah.
All right. So, but yeah, okay. Well, so for the most part, we're all doing well. So, and we've got a lot for those of you who are interested in Ukraine. Now, this is a news channel. It's an educational show. We're two channels. We're In Time and Overtime. Overtime is our bit more just our educational content. We do a lot of stuff on that. That's discussions on various. Sometimes it's philosophy. What is stochastic terrorism? How do you deal with it? Elements of what is post-truth? What's happening in the media today? And then In Time, which is sort of much more current, breaking news. This is happening right here, right now. We're simulcasting to both of them because we're trying to build up Overtime to the point where it's got 1,000 subs. We're about 150 subs short. So if you guys can help us out and make that 150 today, that would be a huge help. And honestly, at that point, we'll probably stop simulcasting most stuff. Really, really big things will be simulcast on both. But for the most part, we did a thing on the history of Martin Luther King Jr. That's kind of a more Overtime show. And then, what's happening today right now is obviously In Time. Pun very much intended. That's why I'm known for my dad jokes. So at any rate, thank you all so much for your support, and the likes and shares really help. So one of the things we're going to be doing in the near future is we've got, obviously, on the 22nd, our Ukraine fundraiser, and what we're going to do there is all super chats are going to be going to the United Nations Refugee Relief Fund for Ukraine, and most of that money is going to go directly to Poland and to Ukraine, because those are the two countries that are suffering most or have the greatest number of refugees that need immediate help. So everything that we get there from that stream, and that's on the 22nd, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, everything is going to be going to the United Nations Relief Fund. However, the highest super chat is going to be getting this. Now, this is a Ukrainian flag that was crocheted by Godless Mom. And Godless Mom, I can't believe I said Godless Mom. Sincerely apologize. There is a Godless Mom, but a Godless Granny. A lot of godless people on Twitter. I do get confused sometimes. Godless Granny reached out and said, hey, listen, maybe you could auction this off. And I thought that was a great idea, but we thought maybe take it a step further and do a fundraiser. So we're going to be doing that. And Starsky, I think you had said that you'd be willing to write a letter to the winner, just sort of a thank you letter. Is that my... So
yes, absolutely.
Marvelous. So Starsky will be writing you a letter. I will be writing you a letter, and that for whoever has the highest. But all the donations are going to go to the UN relief. And on top of that, Anastasia Paraskovia, I'm probably mispronouncing that. She's going to be there with us too, and we're going to have a lot of guests coming in and out. The Shills have said they're going to come. Anna from Ukraine has also said that she's going to come starting around 9 p.m. her time. Let's see, that would be 2 p.m. Eastern. She says, say hi to Starsky, by the way. So Starsky, hi from Anna. And
thank you so much.
So we're gonna have a lot of guests. We're still reaching out. We're still talking to a number of guests that I hope will be able to come on. But those are the ones that are so far confirmed. We also have on the week of May 14th, and we haven't settled on exactly when, but on the week of May 14th, we're going to have on General Ben Hodges. He is the former commanding general of the United States Army in Europe and the Allied Land Command. He is the former he may still be a former, I think, pushing chair for strategic studies at the Center for European Policy Analysis and commander of NATO Allied Land Command and advisor for the NATO Supreme Alliance Commander in Europe. These are former positions. He's not doing that right now. I think we probably wouldn't. Hopefully, he'd have better things to do than to come on this show if he was still doing all of those things. But we are going to be having him on the week of the 14th. We don't know exactly when yet. It turns out he's a busy guy, so we're making it work. But and then we're going to have each of those previous guests, Anastasia and Anna, also on starting on, I believe, April 27th and on May 2nd, I want to say. So a lot going on, especially if you're interested in Ukraine. Last time I'm going to say this, at least for this 15-minute block. Like, subscribe, and share. It really helps us out. It doesn't cost anything. And the reason we all say this, every YouTuber you've ever seen says this, is because it actually really does make a difference. So if you like our content, if you like the show, you can become a patron. You can do super chats, not on overtime. They're not to 1,000 yet, so they can't do it. The link to In Time is pinned at the top, and it's in the description. Super chats are going to the Vatra volunteer organization. That was told Starsky he can pick a charity. That was the charity of his choice. That's where all super chats for today's show are going. And way to help us out that's nice and free. If you feel like you can't do a super chat, like, subscribe, and share this with people that you know would be interested in it. We'd really appreciate it. All that now done, out of the way. Let's get to the reason you're here and start with Starsky. Thank you so much for joining us. And why don't you tell us what's been going on in the last week in Ukraine?
We have quite a few updates from Ukraine. First of all, there were several strikes on Ukrainian cities. There was one strike conducted by Russians on Orikhiv. Orikhiv is Zaporizhia Oblast. We know that Russians used Su-35 aircraft that were dropping their bombs, and there was also one very, very bad strike at Slovyansk. Earlier today, we knew about 5 people dead. And currently, we know that the number of those people grew to 8 civilians that died due to this strike, and there's also 21 wounded. Unfortunately, among wounded and dead, there are children. We also have information that Russians are still trying to surround Bakhmut at this point. Again, it's been 3 weeks since the day that I said that Bakhmut is not gonna fall, not in the nearest future, and we know that it still holds. So one of the news that one of the updates that we received, I think yesterday, was regarding the report made by ISW, and the analytics are saying that Russians are not able to perform several offensive operations at this point because they lack the personnel and vehicles, and we also know that they relocated several units from the area of Avdiivka towards Bakhmut because they are unable to advance in both directions. One very interesting update from Russia, So on so-called Victory Day, 9th of May, there was supposed to be a military parade in Russia, but it was cancelled in several oblasts of Russia, and I believe that they will be also cancelled in Moscow. We will see. But the reason why those parades were cancelled in several regions of Russia is basically because they don't have tanks to perform this military parade. So it's one of the reasons. Probably we will see a bit more T-34 tanks, maybe something like that. But majority of those modern tanks, they will not be used at the parade. Maybe there will be a small parade in Moscow. Again,
Break out the BT-5s.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that you can like make a tank gun out of paper mache, put it on like a bicycle, and as long as you've got the training wheels on it, you're probably okay. Let me interrupt for a second, and I hesitate to do this because I don't want you to forget anything else. But so Victory Day is in Russian terms, just the way the Russians see this is it is the day that Russia saved the planet Earth from Germany in World War II. Is that accurately their view of that? Am I getting that one right?
Not just saved planet Earth, but they did it alone.
Yes.
Without any help from the allies. Actually, Russia didn't need allies at all. Land lease and what are you talking about? They could do everything alone, and they did. So they
that big factory in Siberia producing Studebaker trucks, lots of them.
Yeah. So they celebrate this day. Basically, what they say is that they should repeat. They want to destroy Berlin once again, and for some reason they're sure they can do it. And they claim that on this day they remember all those Nazis that are still alive, talking about the UK, France, Poland, of course, and they drink and talk about Stalin failing to destroy the rest of the Nazis, Americans, French, and one day they will finish his job, basically.
So canceling this, I mean, this I'm not aware, and Commander McMillan can let me know if, but to the best of my understanding, I'm certainly not aware of them ever having. I mean, this is huge for them. This is not just a military parade. This is that we saved everybody. We're the greatest country on the planet. This is proof, and they've canceled it. That's huge.
Yeah, this is a really, really big prestige event for them, and canceling it is a very big deal.
Again, I believe that they can bring several tanks for the parade on the Red Square. Maybe it's kind of plausible. Maybe they will do this, but again, they will have to sacrifice their troops currently fighting in Donbass, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I saw this once, and I think, because I do feel kind of bad for them. So what we can do is, because my 12-year-old daughter's class did this, where they just painted these things and then carried them. So I'm thinking if they just paint tanks on the side of some paper and just walk. I'm trying to be helpful. They've still got kindergartners over there. They've shipped all the men off to die in Ukraine, but they still have kids, so we put them to work.
Actually,
I'm sure the British still have some of those inflatable tanks they used during the war for deception purposes.
Yeah.
No. They need to talk to Belarusian Spetsnaz.
Yeah.
And Belarusian Spetsnaz can actually make those tanks out of man, like Transformers. They can do all kinds of
Oh, that'll be even more impressive, and they'll be like, we can use these on the front line. They don't have armor or guns.
What armor
or
among
mobility.
friends? Come on.
Yeah, I like this. I think Starsky's onto something. All right. Well, so
Like,
I wanted to.
it's the best idea ever. Actually, they gotta invite Belarusian Spetsnaz to all kinds of events, because people watching those shows, those performances, they can literally forget about anything, even drinking, because Belarusian Spetsnaz does some crazy shit. I think David Copperfield could learn a lot from Belarusian Spetsnaz.
Oh dear Lord! All right. Well, so anyways, I apologize for interrupting, but I wanted to make sure that people understood that that's not just golly gee whiz. They canceled a parade. This is to them. It's a huge deal. So I wanted to. So I did interrupt you. So I don't know how much you had left, but we're covering what's been going on in Ukraine.
So not too much. There are news that more and more Chinese components are found in Russian missiles, Russian weaponry that is found on the battlefield, which
How
means
can that be?
that China is basically providing Russians with those components. There's also one update from Norwegia that Norway that expelled 15 Russian diplomats, and they report basically that those Russian agents officially employed as diplomats were recruiting informators. They were conducting radio espionage, and also they were searching for ways to find high-tech components for Russian military. Therefore, they were banished from Norway.
And one thing I'd like to do is, and we've had this discussion with Commander McMillan before, I'd like to do it before the end of the show, but not necessarily right now, is to explain, A, why if they're spies, they were only banished, B, wait a minute, if they're diplomats, why are they spies? And I know McMillan has the answers because we've discussed this before, but I'd like him to, because he's kind of our resident expert on this, so we'll ask him again in a few minutes to explain some of the nuance of that, because it gets interesting. But
Sure.
all right, so a lot of interesting things going on, and of course we're expecting major combat operations to be resuming in Ukraine shortly. And it's one of those things, everybody who's listening to this right now knows what I'm about to say, but I want to say it anyway. And one reason why we're suddenly focusing on Ukraine so much right now is because it's things are going to start to get difficult in Ukraine going forward. And in the U.S., there's a lot of politics. Ukraine has become weaponized in the battle between MAGA and everybody else in the U.S. And it's easy to forget how important Ukraine is and that they're going to continue to need our help even when we're sitting there trying to pay our bills and trying to, figure out what, which is, by the way, worthy stuff. I don't want to sit here and say, I think the goal of every country is to live as comfortable a life as possible. So I think that's a good thing. It's a universal good when people can be comfortable, but not if it's at the expense of remembering that there are people who need your help. If it's nothing more than writing your congressman a personal letter saying Ukraine's important to me and I only support candidates who support Ukraine. This is how we're going to keep the U.S. fully engaged in Ukraine, which I think it needs to be, and for as long as it's needed. And we could pull out, we could leave. We've done that before. Ask how well that went in Afghanistan, both times. And for those of you who know, or in Iraq, thank you.
Yeah, let's burn all our Kurdish allies. That was just...
Yeah, the Northern Kurds, they were told not to trust us, that we'd bail as soon as it was politically expedient. And they said, nope, the Americans will stick with us. And we bailed. We're not a perfect country. I think we do a lot of things right, and we screw up a lot. Let's not let this be one of the things we screw up. So, all right, end of speech. We've got 2 super chats, and then we'll get into some of the Let's see. Question for anyone. So this is $4.99 from Boston Dan. Question for anyone. Did you see the info leaked by Jack significantly hinder the Ukraine war effort? We will get into that in a minute. Thank you very much. Again, all super chats are going to the Vatra Volunteer Organization, which helps a number of units in Ukraine, but also specifically Starsky units. So, that's I think that's certainly a worthwhile cause. And then 100 knock. I want to say Norwegian krone. I think that's correct. Starsky, have you seen 𝐒𝐨𝐻𝐚𝐬's worm candy factory? I have no idea what that means. I assume somebody else here does.
What kind of candy factory?
MAGYAR candy factory. Have you seen?
Magyar is Hungarian.
Magyar, actually, he's one of the air recon boys. Man, actually, he's like older man, and he was doing a lot of reports from Bakhmut. He still does. Haven't seen the recent update with the candy factory, but I gotta check it out, of course. He's a really I'm very glad that his videos are being translated into English, but it's still very hard to translate all that dark humor produced by this man, because it's legendary. It's absolutely it cracks me up every time I'm watching his videos. He's a legend.
Excuse me. Yeah, we talk about that a lot too. I mean, the dark humor is sometimes it's about the only thing that gets you through the day when you're talking about covering some of the things that we have to do. And I have to believe it does not translate well. That's the one I read. I was reading Crime and Punishment, and I remember I was about a little less than halfway through when I was marveling at the beauty of the language, and then I was like, wait a minute, this isn't the language it was written in. So whoever translated that thing wasn't just okay, let's translate and put in the word. No, they knew both languages really, really well, and it's a gorgeous translation. It's hard to translate good writing, good humor, good anything from one language to another. But all right, well, good. Well, we should also drop a link to that channel. So it's Magyar. I thought at first, Commander, I agree. I thought it was Magyar, which is Hungarian, but the Y and the G are reversed. So unless I'm dyslexifying that, which I could, I was like, okay, wait, just make sure I got that right. All right. So let's actually discuss, since we did get the super chat, and I think that this is worth getting into. I think this is something for both of you guys. I'm very interested in the Ukrainian perspective. I imagine it's mixed. And also, so let's start with Operator Starsky. There have been a large number of leaks. It's embarrassing, I think, in many cases to the U.S., both some of how the sausage is made, but also the fact that these leaks have happened. So what can you tell us about your understanding of these leaks, and also how they're being treated both by the military, to the best of your knowledge, and the civilians in Ukraine?
Well, as far as I remember, this young man that leaked those documents, he was like American traditionalist or something like that.
Lance would probably know better than me. All I know is he's from Massachusetts, which is my neck of the woods, and I know the area he's from rather well, but I haven't researched him.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Do we have a motive on the guy? Was he an American traditionalist, or what do we know about the guy who did the leaks?
There's some of that, but honestly, from my reading between the lines of this, it's just some little nobody who decided it was his way of proving to all his buddies on Discord and his gaming channel that he's really connected and knows all sorts of important stuff. it was an ego thing.
Yeah. First of all, that information, because it was picked by Russians and changed, we have to take this information with grain of salt, because a lot of those reports in those documents were kind of photoshopped regarding losses and things like that.
Yeah.
According to those leaked documents, Russians lost 10 times less tanks than they did in reality. And on the other hand, I think that it will only benefit Ukraine, because we know what Russians know. We can fix our leaks in our security, and there is also one important thing regarding the ammunition that Ukraine had, because this leak raised a lot of concern about the ammunition that Ukraine currently has in its possession. So that's something that we were talking a lot for the last year, that we need ammunition. It's not like we wanted to play with the ammunition, trade ammunition, give those shells and missiles to our kids, or donate them. We need them to survive. We need them to survive, because we are fighting against formerly world's second biggest army.
I think one of the things that's important to take away here is that everybody knew about the ammunition shortages. It had been discussed openly for months. So it's not like the information that came out in these leaks is anything earth-shattering or new.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we had enough ammunition, we wouldn't be screaming about it on every meeting on highest levels. All of our authorities, or our president, our members of our government, all kinds of officials that we have, we were screaming about it, and we still are screaming about it every day. We need weaponry. We need everything that can be provided to us in order to stop Russian invasion, and not just stop Russian invasion, but do it as fast as we can. Because every single day, while this counteroffensive is delayed, for example, every single day costs us lives of Ukrainian civilians and Ukrainian soldiers that are motivated, trained, and people usually don't understand how much resources and specifically time it takes to train and prepare highly motivated professional soldier. It's like it takes a lot of effort, actually. As a former NCO, I can tell you that. So every day while we suffer this shortage of ammunition, every day costs us human lives and destroyed infrastructure. Again, it's very, very important. Every single day, new houses, new schools, new power objects are being destroyed and bombed by Russians, and this continues. So we need more ammunition in order to stop it as fast as possible.
Well, I kind of chuckled there earlier because you've actually asked on this show. I mean, I remember when you were sitting there saying ammunition's a real problem, and we it's what we need most right now. And I ask you every few shows, what does Ukraine need most? And I remember when it started shifting from any help with power to ammunition. That's been your her answer for some time now. So I guess I can go on Discord and impress women too. Probably can't, but all right. So let's see. Then we also had, I think we had another super chat. I'll check on that in a second. So thank you. And again, just as a reminder, if you can like and subscribe to Overtime, that's the channel. That's the smaller channel. We're trying to get it to 1,000 subs. Once we do, we don't have to simulcast anymore, and people will be able to super chat there. But if you want to super chat, link to Overtime is on the top. We're simulcasting to both of them. Already explained why. I'm not going to do that again. That was at the top of the show. There was also something else interesting that happened, and I don't know. We've been talking a bit about oil in Saudi Arabia, and that's become a bit of an issue for any number of reasons. The first of all is there was a report, but it was a report of them considering. It was literally, I think it was the Financial Times said Saudi Arabia reportedly considering. Okay, so that's two hedges right there. Reportedly considering taking Chinese yuan for oil. Now, this is actually a big deal if they're really considering it, and the reason is because we don't know. Because reported considering, I don't know. It may also just be that they want Americans to think that way, and this gets into beyond my scope of what we can possibly know is going on right now. But here's the deal. The U.S. holds the dollar is the world reserve currency, and it allows the U.S. to leverage a number of things economically that have helped reduce the effects of inflation, yada yada yada. For the U.S., it's a huge benefit. Any country that was the reserve world currency is going to have a huge benefit. There's been talk before of switching it to the euro. None of those talks have been particularly serious, but this would have cataclysmic repercussions in the U.S. if this happened. If Saudi Arabia is actually considering it, the reason this is an issue is because they would not be considering it unless they thought they could get everybody else on board that's in the Middle East, which we're not popular in the Middle East, so I can see that not being a huge stretch. The reason is because no one country, the world reserve currency isn't voted on. It's just the sort of the coalescing of monetary policy into a single currency that makes it easier. And if people don't like that currency anymore for any reason and enough switch over, boom, the world currency has moved. But if you're going to try to deliberately move it, the way you do it is moving it through oil. Oil is right now essentially our most important resource. If you change that reserve currency to, say, the Chinese yuan, sorry, that changes everything. And what is so interesting about this is they have now intervened, sort of, by making this peace proposal between Kyiv and Moscow. What's more, now Saudi Arabia, from a report from yesterday, is buying Russian oil at record levels and essentially laundering it to every other country. So my question is this: how much effect does this have on the sanctions against, if anyone here can project? I know we're starting to get into economics. That's a little bit out of our field, but I figure it's relevant, and so I wanted to discuss this. Does anybody have any idea how much this may affect the sanctions and Russia's ability to make income that they can use towards buying weapons or anything else from, say, Iran? And or does this have any significant impact on our ability to tighten the economic noose around Russia, or any other impacts that we haven't considered? Does anybody have any thoughts on this?
Starsky?
I would like to hear you, my friends.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So here's my thought. I think trying to, and the Chinese have been making noises about pushing this and trying to establish the yuan as an alternate reserve currency for some time. It hasn't had any traction. Most people don't see the Chinese economy as being particularly robust So the yuan could easily just tank overnight. So people are very cautious about that. I think it benefits them because they're one of the principal suppliers to the Russians for some of the stuff that's under the sanctions regime. It benefits China to find some way to have currency that can be returned to them for giving stuff to the Russians. And if it's their own currency, that lends a certain degree of credence to this whole thing of they're now the big reserve currency of the globe, the alternate to the dollar. How realistic that is, I can't say. I think this is a kind of a pipe dream. I think the Chinese Communist Party is doing its level best to try to keep the lid on a lot of dissatisfaction at home. And this is just another way to kind of reinforce the measures they're taking with that. That's my opinion.
I think that we should ask Jake Bro. I mean, he knows stuff. He can explain it better than all of us combined.
Probably true.
All right, well, we'll certainly keep an eye on it. That's in our Discord. And by the way, so we have a pretty extensive Discord. It's we're a news and educational program. You'll find on our Discord channels for gaming, for philosophy, for law, for LGBTQ, for science, for any topic you want. We have 2 channels for Ukraine, actually. A little more than that, but we have 2 basic ones just for the news, so you can find out what's there. And we're very proud of the fact that we often can post there before you'll find it in mainstream media. Those of you who've been following us for a while know that we often go to air before ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, even Al Jazeera. And I don't say that jokingly. Al Jazeera actually has some pretty serious chops, and they're the hardest of all of those organizations to beat. Yeah, we've come in second to Al Jazeera and an hour ahead of every other news organization. So, and how and we do this and why we think it's important, you will discuss some other time, but you'll find those discussions in the Discord. And Commander McMillan is in the Discord and is very good about answering questions. So if you want to discuss what's going on, if you want to stay abreast of what's going on, join the Discord. And I think you'll find it's a valuable resource for you. Now we have Canadian 2799 from level 70 who has been a huge supporter. So we really appreciate that, level 70, and I've seen you around, seen you on the shills, and just amazing the amount of support he's been providing. So I'm sure the shills feel very much the same way I do, which is we really appreciate it. So for $29.99, level 70, hey Starsky, why do you think U.S. intelligence keeps underestimating the Ukrainian military? First they said Ukraine will fall in 3 days, and now is this leak saying that they think that the upcoming counteroffensive will not be successful. So what are your thoughts?
I think it's better to underestimate Ukrainians than overestimate Ukrainians, because whenever we succeed with something, they go like surprise, and everybody starts celebrating. So probably that's the reason. I don't know. I think you should ask this our American friends. I've no idea. Everybody were like, guys, we will provide you with everything needed in order to perform this partisan, the guerrilla warfare, so you could eliminate Russian occupiers in a partisan way. And we were like talking to my colleague from other units, and we were like, what like are you even serious? I have no idea. Not like it insults me, but it's kind of funny.
I think
a
that's
large part of it is that the raw numbers don't look good for the Ukrainians. If all you're talking about are how many bodies, how many tanks, how many artillery tubes, that kind of stuff, you look at it and you say, yeah, there's no way this can work. But it ignores the key element, which is what are called in military terms soft factors. It's the motivation, it's the training, it's the doctrine, it's the officer corps who understands that they have to make the right decisions at the right times, as opposed to the Russian slant ex-Soviet system where everything has to be approved at the highest level before you can, wipe your ass after visiting the latrine. So, yeah, I mean, I can see how they arrive at it, but you'd think after the first one or two times when you make those errors of assessment, you would take a step back and look at things and say, maybe we need to reevaluate, recalculate where we're going on this. But too often they just continue down the same primrose path of, oh, well, it has to be this way because, it's just, it doesn't make sense, I think.
Well, and I think when you add to that, I mean, okay, a free Ukraine has never been involved, into the best of my knowledge, an actual war. And when Putin took Crimea, the general consensus was, well, there's nothing anyone can really do. So the assumption was, well, if he goes after the rest of Ukraine, it's going to be kind of the same thing. And I think that's one of the dangers, first of all, of letting him take Crimea, is that, it's appeasement. You end up in basically the World War II Germany again. That's exactly what happened in World War II. But that notwithstanding, the other thing is, and I think this is, I've got to be honest with you, there are many factors towards, for lack of a better word, Ukrainian exceptionalism, I think, in this war. But one of the ones that stands out in my mind as being most important is Zelensky. And nobody had any idea how Zelensky would deal with pressure. And there's no way to know. There's no way to know. You can guess, but until something like this happens, you don't know. And I think the assumption was, at best, he'd be an average leader. And given that he had come as a comedian on television, I think there were people who said, yeah, that's being generous, saying that he'd have the kind of chops and skills that are needed. And it turns out he has, at least in my uneducated view, he's been extraordinary. And keep in mind, it's not just like, oh, he's had extraordinary strategy or stuff like that. No, he hasn't. But he's been able to identify the generals that would, and he's listened to them, and he's responsible for the entire effort at every level, and it's been coordinated and professional at every level. Commander, that doesn't happen very much in military history at all, does it? Or am I assessing it correctly?
No, I think you're very accurate there. I think one of the key things is that Zelensky knows his own limitations, and he turns towards the military command structure for them to make decisions on things that they know that are within their wheelhouse. Conversely, we see Putin making just ridiculous, detailed, orders about, I want this platoon to attack in this direction, and we need to make sure that these guys get 3 more heavy machine guns than we have over there now. It's just, authoritarian leaders love, and Hitler and Mussolini and all those guys love to do that kind of thing, because they're all seriously convinced they are much wiser, much smarter than anybody else out there. And I think in Zelensky's case, he realizes he's not the smartest guy in the game, but he knows how to find the right talent to exploit the abilities of his military, of his nation, of his economy, everything. So I agree with you. I think Zelensky is just phenomenal.
Absolutely, and he has one of the wisest things that he did was assigning General 𝐒𝐸𝐿𝐶𝐵 as chief of the general staff of Ukraine, because he is a combat officer with huge experience, and he's legendary, basically. But I completely agree with you, and even prior to the recent presidential elections, we were joking. So you could understand it, okay? The joke would sound like this: imagine Russia attacking the U.S. and your president is Conan O'Brien.
That's really good.
Okay.
So that's something that we had in Ukraine prior to the presidential elections. And I remember when Zelensky became president, there were a lot of controversies because he wanted to talk to the broad public, not only to majority of Ukrainians who elected him, but also to pro-Russian Ukrainians. He tried to convince them that he is a president of peace who wants to stop this war, who wants to make sure that Ukrainian soldiers will not die anymore. But because we are talking about negotiating with Putin, which makes absolutely no sense, that's why he failed in this regard. Like, I don't think that he realized completely back then that you cannot negotiate with Putin. It doesn't make sense at all. So later,
look how well Neville Chamberlain did negotiating with Hitler.
Yeah. Same shit with China. Yesterday, China was saying that Chinese Communist Party wants peace. It will make sure that Russia and Ukraine can negotiate peace and stop killing each other and shit like that. And today they're saying that Chinese military should prepare for actual combat, and they should prepare for taking Taiwan. Like, talking to terrorists makes absolutely no sense. You cannot negotiate with them. I hope at least that there will be a time when people will finally realize this. You cannot negotiate with ISIS. You cannot negotiate with freaking Taliban. You cannot negotiate with freaking Hezbollah. You cannot negotiate with Russia, and basically China, because it's the same kind of freaking terrorists. And I'm not talking about Chinese people. I'm talking about the freaking Communist Party.
Yeah.
And people must understand that what Zelensky finally understood, because he realized this, and because he finally accepted this fact early when this invasion started. We were able to defend ourselves, and we were able to continue fighting and survive. And that's what we are doing today, and we will be doing tomorrow.
Well, to be fair, you kind of turned me around on that position. I completely agree with everything you just said about terrorism, and I've known that for a while. That's an easy one to understand. It doesn't take a lot of experience to understand that. For me, when you first referred to Russia as a terrorist organization, I was like, whoa, okay, maybe a little hyperbole there, but I get it. I mean, I understand. And the more we talked about it, I was like, shit, he's right. I mean, it's not. This isn't. And then when you see the advisors to Putin saying, yeah, we have to literally damage Ukraine as much as possible. We have to target the infrastructure. We have to target civilians. I'm sitting there going, that's terrorism by definition. I'm just not used to, and you had said this too, I think, which was, if they're terrorists, they just have, army IDs. They have, and I'm like, yeah, that's it. And that for me is what the block was. I was like, if you take away the Army IDs and if you take away that they're on behalf of the state, you'd spot them as terrorists right off the bat. You'd recognize it. There would be no doubt in your mind. But because it's at the behest of a open behest of a country, it's not even like kind of under the, it's not like the Taliban in Afghanistan, working with Al-Qaeda or anything like that. This is the country itself. We think of it as a state first that's committing acts of terror. No, it's a terrorist organization under the guise of a state. And once you realize that, I think that for me is the sticking point, and that may have been for Zelensky as well. I don't know, but yeah. That's it. Now, Commander, were you going to say anything, and then I can get to a couple super chats here? Or?
No, I think that's a good way of putting it. I think there are a lot of countries that fall into that category. I mean, Iran is a perfect case in point where, you have the Revolutionary Guard who finances everything by criminal enterprise. They're into all the smuggling is controlled by them going into and out of Iran. They run the narcotics, they run everything that's illegal. That's how they finance their operations. And people don't understand that. They think, oh no, they're just like a Praetorian Guard and they keep the mullahs safe. Well, maybe, but really it's kind of the mafia. And I think there are a lot of countries you can go to, and that's kind of what is happening in many of them, where regimes that are run by elites, be it oligarchs or drug cartels or whatever, those people feel that they're above the law and they can create their own laws to benefit themselves. And we're starting to see that in a lot of other places than just those authoritarian countries.
I'm sure no Trump knows what you're talking about. Trump! Sorry. I
would never have tried to implicate somebody.
No, I was coughing. Sorry. I've been a little under the weather.
Oh, okay.
So we got a couple of super chats, and we're going to get back to this here. So we have a $100 super chat from DCS, who did not leave a comment. So if DCS would like to, they can. They're going to need to tag In Time Show for me to see that. But $100 US. So thank you very much for that. Again, all super chats going to the Watcher Volunteer Organization. And we're very proud that we're able to do that. And that's really the generosity of the people watching today, so thank you all. We have a first-time super chatter. Can't read the name. $5, cheap SOB, clearly, but says, best Zelensky move ever. Take Starsky's rifle when testing drones. Don't know who super chatted that. No idea. A very handsome guy, I would assume, just by the way it's written. Yeah, but anyways, well, let's move on. $50 US from Silver Earth. Hello, Captain Starsky. Good to see you. A while back, I got an Instagram voice message from you about a badge. It really sounds like you, and I need to know if it was real or a deep fake. And I think you've talked about these badges before. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I think a couple of months ago I mentioned that I ordered some 10 or 20 badges to give out to like guests of our brigade, and people started asking whether they can get those badges, and of course, because I cannot say no to people, I decided to give them out, but I made specific warning that it will take time. So I'm very, very sorry if you still haven't received those patches, but it will take some time. And also I designed some new specific patch for defenders of Ukraine, for supporters of Ukraine from around the globe, and there will be several ways to get those. There will be Lift 99. It's an Estonian Estonian/international organization that brings cars to the Ukrainian armed forces as well as Ukrainian guardsmen and my brigade specifically, and you will be able to get those patches there. And also, I was talking to my friend. He's a designer and he has his own merch store, but maybe they will be available at his merch store as well. It's not 100% true, but I will do my best to convince him.
Well, if there's anything we can do to help too, Starsky, we'll always, if you need to like send them to a place in the U.S. that'll hold on to them and ship them out at your direction or whatever, you let me know. We'll find a way to get that done for you. So
that would be awesome, because the idea, like, I would even just make the design of this patch available, so anybody could just print it or order those patches like somewhere, because the main idea is that people who support Ukraine could wear this patch as as a manifest that they support our country and they support freedom. So I still gotta figure out how to do it, but I will keep you informed, of course.
absolutely. So and I think you know how to reach me. So anytime, let me know. We'll see what we could do. So I did want to get back to two things. Getting back to how the intelligence leaks dovetails with the U.S. assessment of how Ukraine can prosecute this war. One of the things that was leaked was, and this is what I think Level 70 was talking about, but I'd like to make a correction. So if I understand correctly, let me actually read the original. What I think it was Level 70. That the upcoming counteroffensive will not be successful. That wasn't the claim in the intelligence that was leaked. It's not that different from that, but that it would not be as successful as Ukraine had been hoping, so that they would in fact make gains, maybe some reasonable gains. But if you use the last counter-offensive as a bar, that they're trying to at least do as well as that one, they're not going to, was the U.S. assessment. So it would be successful, but not as successful as Ukraine had been expecting or hoping. However, we met a guy who has a differing opinion. And has said that he believes that this will be perhaps even more successful than the last one. Commander McMillan, you've now seen this assessment in the U.S. From U.S. intelligence. Maybe it's accurate, maybe it's not. I don't know. At least accurate in terms of accurately reflecting the U.S. view. You've said that you believe, if I remember correctly, if I'm quoting you accurately, you said that you believe that.
Yeah.
Do you still believe that? You still believe the offensive will be?
I do, and I'll go over again why I think that it's likely to be the case. I mean, I don't want to set unrealistic expectations, but from the simple math standpoint, the Russians have taken horrendous casualties. They've lost most of their cadres of experienced long-term contract troops. So the people who are serving at the front right now are mobics and conscripts who have very little training. They're utilizing older, obsolete pieces of equipment. And we know they have logistical problems. Conversely, you stand that on its head from the Ukrainian standpoint, and we know that a significant number of Ukrainian troops are now returning from training in overseas, in Europe and the U.S. So they've gotten good, solid training. They're getting top of the line new equipment in many cases. They've been given a whole bunch of new logistics and ammunition and everything to prosecute the offensive. I just don't see how you can come up with the analysis of saying, well, yeah, they'll probably make some gains, but it's not going to be anywhere near as big as the Kharkiv or the Kherson offensives of last year. because the numbers don't bear that out. Now, I'll go out on a limb and say I think if we stretch this situation out for another year, then yeah, I think we're probably looking at a situation where Ukraine may be running short on numbers. And we don't know, but it's entirely plausible that we'll have, what I call donor fatigue from all the countries that are helping keep them in the war. And you put those two together, and maybe 2024 is not as optimistic a situation as what we're looking at right now. But overall, I think that's kind of where we stand.
I agree with Commander, and I also agree on the matter of training and motivation, because let's say in Russia, there is a soldier who wants to join Russian army, and he comes to this military commission, and he says, "I want to enlist, but can you tell me some more details on what's happening there?" And they're like, everything is fine. 97% of Russians return home. Ukrainians are running away like crazy. They are so much afraid of us. We are fighting in the vicinity of Lvov, West Ukraine already. Ukraine is like it's almost fallen. So everything will be totally fine, and all those Nazis will be destroyed and killed, and everything will be okay. Then he comes to Ukraine, let's say he's lucky and he received 2 weeks of training somewhere in a freaking post-Soviet camp in Belarus, and then he already suffering from severe case of alcoholism. He comes to Ukraine, and he sees units 70, 80 or 90% destroyed, and people are like, "Hello there, you death man."
And after 3 months of service at the front, you get to go home with a brand new BMW, right?
Yeah, or your wife receives Lada Kalina, then what's his motivation? He's literally dying there. All the Ukrainians freaking hate him. He's no freaking hero. All the Ukrainians are freaking hating him. Then he receives all kinds of this beautiful Ukrainian hospitality that we have towards invaders, including HIMARS strikes, including partisans, guerrilla, including the PSYOPs, and all kinds of shit you can imagine. What kind of motivation can he have? And also all kinds of mobbies that he communicates with, and they go like, my unit, my company died yesterday. I'm the only survived man. And that's their level of motivation. Speaking of Ukrainians, today I visited my good buddy who got wounded not far from Bakhmut several days ago, and they were cleaning the Russian trenches. So there was a small operation, and they were eliminating Russians in their trench. Unfortunately, he jumped into some foxhole that was located separate from that trench that was mined, and he lost half of his foot. And he got evacuated, and today I talked to him. I brought him some yummies and stuff, and I'm like, "How are you?" And he's lying there in a bed with half of his foot missing and both legs broken and multiple wounds from fragments of that landmine. And he's like, I'm totally fine. I need to return to the front lines. Like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm already cured. I'm healed. Everything will be fine. Like, you don't have a freaking foot. He's like, it just seems so. Everything is fine. Believe me. Like, I need to go back to my guide. So that's the level of motivation that our soldiers have, because when we discuss losses and we talk about like people that are killed in action or wounded in action, actually number of Ukrainian soldiers that are wounded in action, eventually it becomes smaller than it was previously, because people who lose their limbs, they receive prosthetics and they return to the front lines.
Yeah, I think that's and this is why, and Commander McMillan has said this repeatedly, that you can often find 3-to-1 kill ratios in favor of defenders, and in part because they know the territory and they've presumably prepared. But I think also there is a different motivation and a higher level of motivation for defenders. I did want to say, I think you did do a little injustice to the Russian recruiters there. I think they are telling the truth when they talk about the percentage of Russians who return from the front lines. Between 70 and maybe 80% of each Russian that goes does in fact return. They may not all be together, but I think you did a disservice there, sir. But that's just me. At any rate, we got a $25 super chat. Thank you for your perspective on this god-awful war. This is from Silver Earth, who also had asked the previous one. You keep fighting, and I will keep donating money to help improve the Russians. Belly rubs for Fuch. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine. So once again, Fuch gets a super chat. The canines in time seem to be outshining. We're not going to do a poll on like who's your favorite guest, because I know it's the top 4 is going to be the animal representatives of people we've had on. But all right. So I think we were talking about, and I think we're going to start to wrap this up. I also wanted to point out, I think you're going to be on the shills tomorrow. Sometimes the shills have been moving it back on to Sundays, and I know for the 22nd, the shills have offered to move it back to Sunday so that you and the shills can join us. That's actually your regular shills time is when we're doing the charity stream on the 22nd, April 22nd. That's a Saturday, and it's during your normal block. And the shills have Dick just said, I'm sitting there going, let's figure this out so that he can do both shows. And Dick was like, oh no, fuck that. We'll move back to Sunday. So everyone's freed up for that. So that was awfully good of him. Nobody tell him I said that. I don't like giving him any more credit than the bare minimum I have to. But at any rate, so you're going to be on the shills tomorrow. Is that right?
Yes, I will be on the shills tomorrow, usual time, starting like today. And speaking of pets, I literally just imagined like Fudge sitting here, like instead of me, then the commander's dog instead of commander, and then do you have a pet?
I do. I have a dog. I have a black lab.
Okay. Yeah, and your dog sitting there, and they're having like a conversation. And actually, I think it's like this show can be success. Like you will have 100,000 subscribers instantly. Trust me.
I will. Okay, gentlemen.
Not
for next
pet time.
Pet time. That's exactly zoo time. Okay. Not for next show because we got the
time.
what?
treat time.
Treat time. Here's what we're going to do. If you guys can each get a picture of the dog in your chair from the perspective of your camera, I will put them in the camera for one of the coming shows. My dog will be sitting here. My background, it'll be a real shot of the dog. He's not going to stay there very long, so it's just going to have to be a picture. I'm not going to put it on the camera because he's going to sit there and say, well, I could be looking at this dumb thing, or I could be going out and getting a snack. But, all right, so we'll, we are absolutely going to do that. So sort of the last question I think I had, so we were talking about the underestimation. Oh, two follow-up questions. So Starsky, what is currently the status in Bakhmut? We know that that's been probably, I want to say, as far as I can tell, the worst fighting and the hardest fighting in Ukraine for the entire war. What is the status right now? How much of it is in whose hands? And to the best of your understanding and ability to tell us, what's the goal and expectation there right now?
So currently we know that approximately 2/3 of Bakhmut are controlled by Russian troops, but speaking of the territory that is controlled by Russian troops, basically it's ruins that we cannot use much for defending ourselves, for building our positions, and we had several successful. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can talk much about it though, but we had some successful, some tactic success here and there in Bakhmut on a smaller scale, but still there were several smaller operations that were successful, that were performed by our soldiers.
Commander, anything to add to that, or if you happen to know?
No, not really.
All right, and I did want to point out, so I won't be able to make the shills tomorrow. I will be unavailable. I don't know about Commander McMillan. That is a nasty case of COVID, and you know, everybody in the live chat, you're welcome. We close the camera. You're welcome for that piece of charity.
I think what I'm going to do is crawl in a hole and pull the top in on top of myself and just stay there for the rest of the weekend.
Well, speaking of CF Beauty 20 super chat, love the Russian accent imitation, and Nick, yep, we still love you, LOL. Thank you so much. Well, you know what, it's
Ник,
always...
нам нужно с тобой время от времени говорить на языке, чтобы радовать наших зрителей.
Ты хочешь разговаривать, что? Ты сказал, хочешь разговаривать русский язык для 3 минуты?
Чтобы порадовать наших зрителей.
Наши зрители, я не знаю это слово, я забыл. How do you say word in Russian? Jesus, that's not even coming. Я хочу разговаривать, когда я забыл немного в русский язык, я хочу разговаривать, как он и сказал по-испански. Это, я не знаю, если ты можешь понимать по-испански, so I'll mix the languages, so I'll actually like answer half in Russian, and then when I can't find a word in Russian, my brain just pulls it from Spanish, and that really confuses people. No, спасибо большое. All right, so what was I going to say? Now I'm completely... No, sometimes I'll... okay, I used to be able to do that. Oh, Jesus, I'm tired, but we can give it a shot, where I could actually go from one language into another one. Когда я хотел, это не важно, si estaba español, or estaba ruso, or estaba japonés, I could just go seamlessly. Одна, два, 3 языки, это не важно. Si yo pienso que puedo hacer ahora, but it is still a little difficult. But anyways, there you go.
It's like I talked Italian, like I knew Italian when I was a kid. I completely forgot it. But whenever I'm trying to speak Italian, my brain picks like Polish words, you know, and it's great. Like it's 2 completely different languages, same as like Russian and Spanish. but brain works in strange ways.
Well, and because there's no verb to be in the present tense in Russian, and also you guys don't have indefinite, well, not you guys, sorry, the Russian does not have indefinite articles. I'll pull all the indefinite article from Spanish. So I'll be speaking Russian, and then I'll use the verb to be from Spanish, and it'll just drop in there. I said, wait a minute, I didn't need one. It doesn't exist in Russian, but instead of remembering that. But yeah, so the translation, what that was, just, okay, so I was speaking Russian, English, and Spanish, and I was changing between them mid-sentence, but keeping the entire sentence going. So that's what, so I was just speaking, except I was alternating between the three languages in the middle of each sentence. I used to do that
Actually, dear viewers, actually we were speaking Klingon. It wasn't Russian, but as old fans of Star Trek, we were speaking Klingon.
Exactly.
I hope you liked our small performance.
I gotta say this, and we're gonna wrap up in a minute. And also, come join us on the Discord, and we can, there's a lot more going on there, and you can keep up with what's going on in Ukraine. The other thing that was really interesting, there was an ad in Chicago. There was a hospital in Chicago that was looking for Klingon translators. It was a hospital. They were looking for Klingon translators. Someone's like, "What the hell? It's a made-up language. Why do you need it?" Whoa! There was a convention for Star Trek. Somebody got hit in the head, and they lost all natural language ability, but any language that they learned after the age of 10, they still had. They only learned one language after the age of 10. It was Klingon. So they actually had to find somebody who spoke Klingon to come to the hospital and translate for this guy. I want to figure out how that. Apparently, this caused a big stir because, like, there was a board at the hospital. They refused to approve the request, and like, no, this is a serious medical. We can't talk to him, but for a Klingon like, no, it was a long-going thing. Nobody ever thought about having a Klingon translator on staff. Oh dear Lord. All right. So, a quick reminder, and everybody's been so generous and helpful, and thank you guys so much. We're simulcasting on our sister channel, so it's in time and overtime. We're trying to get overtime to 1,000 subs. It's about 100 short, so anybody here watching, if you can help us out, we may even on this stream be able to get it. If not, we'll get there. But it would really help us out, and we get to kill that restream bot after that's done, and everybody's really interested in that. So thank you all for that. Like, subscribe. If you like the show, share it with a friend that you think would be interested in it, and that's a great way to help us out, and hopefully your friend's going to enjoy it too. Then come in, again, the Discord. We've got channels covering all of this, and we've also got, the other thing is we believe in having, that part of being educated on a topic is knowing and seeing exactly what it's like. And both Operator Starsky and Commander McMillan will tell you one of my pet peeves is that we believe in education, but only so long as it's not, the ugly side. And we have a separate Ukraine channel. You can sign up for it. Where we don't pull any punches. This is what we see going on in Ukraine, and we get a lot of material up there. In fact, some of Starsky's material. One of your first shows, you showed us the grave site that you had been to. Those photos are up there, and so we don't want people who, for whatever reason, are not interested in understanding that side of it. We don't want to. So it's a separate thing, but. That's it. We believe in a complete education on all sides. So come on in, participate in whatever way you feel comfortable with. Hope you'll come in and join us on that Discord. Operator Starsky and Commander McMillan, any final thoughts, either of you?
Not really. It was a good show. I think we're going to be a lot more engaged and busy in probably 3 to 4 weeks. I'll just leave it at that.
I believe that we will have some more content on my channel, as well as the flashback, as well as all the channels following this war in Ukraine. So stay tuned.
I'm holding you to playtime. You, my daughter, me, we're doing it. We're doing Playtime. Starsky's going to be a co-host on the new In Time channel, Playtime. We're gonna do some. This is going to be fun. But so then we had a question about the restream bots. So once Overtime is monetized and hits 1,000, that allows us to do community pins, posts, a few other things. That's it. We're gonna, as much as possible, keep the content separate. They are both educational shows, but of slightly different kinds. And we used to do it all on one channel, but then there were people who were sitting there saying, "Nick, I love these discussions on philosophy and science and science communication and media, but why do you have this news garbage? I don't want that." Whoa. Hold on. There you go. We'll I'll mute 𝐿𝐴𝐷 there. Why do you have this news garbage? And then there are other people say, "Nick, your news coverage is great and awesome. Why do you have on, philosophers talking about the principles behind stochastic terrorism?" And it's sort of like, if you like both, you can watch them on both. If you're just a fan of one, you can sign up for the one, but that makes it easier for everybody else. It makes it harder for us because now it's just one other channel to manage. And until that gets up to 1,000, it can't do super chats. It can't do a whole bunch. Once it does, the only things that will simulcast are really big stories that we believe really does bridge both. Whether we'll keep doing the Starsky shows on both, we haven't decided yet. My inclination is we'll probably just do them on in time. So, but overtime will still be there and we have the rundown. We have a whole bunch of other nick of time. Yes, I know. After Dark and a few other channels that will be shows that'll be on that. So it's the same stuff, just a different kinds of education, if that makes any sense. Restreambot will be gone 99% of the time. So that's it. So having said that, thank you both so much for joining us. Thank you all. And like I said, they will be, we do have one more super chat, so let me get that. But Starsky will be on tomorrow on the shills. I don't think either Macmillan or I will be able to make it. We do have, as a final reminder, on April 22nd, this was made by Godless Granny here. And this is, it turns out, you'll appreciate this, operator. When I first showed this, and then I put it down, and then my head mod, we were talking about it later. He said, we had a map up of Ukraine, and my head mod hits me up and says, "Show Afghan." I was like, "Afghanistan? Why should I show Afghanistan?" So I go to Afghanistan on the map, and we're looking at explosions in Ukraine. I was like, "What's going on in Afghanistan?" So I go to Afghanistan. He's like, "Not Afghan. Afghan, show the." I was like, "Oh, okay." Then he sends me a picture of an Afghan, and like an actual Afghan. So like, a guy sitting there, got the whole, it's like, son of no respect. No, keep the channel just you. Don't have mods. You don't need any of them. I'm telling you, just trolls, trolls with wrenches. They're certified trolls. At any rate. But April 22nd, starting on at 1 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have on Operator Starsky, the Shills, Anna from Ukraine, Anastasia, and a few others that we're talking with. And if you can think of anybody that we haven't reached out to that you think would be great for the show and that would want to help and support, find me. I'm on the Discord. You can find me on Twitter. Let me know, and we can. We'll reach out to them. I think it's going to be a great stream, and all of it's going to go to the UN Refugee Relief Fund. So very much looking forward to that. So we got a super chat. Of course, he did it in Russian, and I can't. I've found old letters that I've written in Russian. It's in my handwriting, and I'm like, I can read as long as it's not cursive. I'm reading my own, there's my own letters in cursive. It's like, that's my handwriting. I have no idea what it says. I can't read it because I can't read Russian cursive anymore. Привет, yeah, I don't know what that last word is. Nimyetshin. I think that's correct. I think you'll have to tell me if you know. Привет. Oh, Jesus, I'm tired. Hello from
Germany.
Немецкий. Yeah. Хорошо, спасибо. Hello from Germany. All right. How many people does it take to translate a single super chat? €2. Hello from Привет из Немецкий. Немецкий. Хорошо. Спасибо. Thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us. I think there's going to be a lot going on in the future, and Starsky, we really appreciate you coming on, and I think I speak for everyone when I say we wish you and your country the absolute best, and Godspeed.
Thank you so much.
Good night all.